I'm Vineet Gupta. I'm one of the directors with Jamboree. Jamboree, as you know, is a company that is engaged in coaching students for GMAT, GRE, SAT for the last 18 years. We started in 1995. We operate physical test centers across different cities of India. We've got 23 centers, 4 in Delhi. We've got centers in Gurgaon, Noida, Faridabad, Bangalore, Chennai, Jaipur, Mumbai, Pune, Chandigarh, Kolkata, Dehradun, Hyderabad, and we also operate a couple of centers in the Middle East. The idea of today's session is to give you a bit of a background on what are the different choices you can make when you are applying abroad, and what are some of the things you need to keep in mind while deciding where you want to study abroad. I think the first question that really comes to everybody's mind when you look at education abroad is, which country do you want to study in? And if you really see the large spectrum of countries where Indian students apply to, the list that you see, US, UK, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, Europe, mainland, Singapore, I think these are our primary destinations. There are still very few students opting to apply to a Japan or a Germany or any other countries, and that is primarily because, since most of our education is in English in India, we are comfortable going to an English-speaking country. And really the countries that you see on the screen are countries which are popular destinations with Indian students. I have to say here that, US, UK have been traditionally favored destinations, and lately you see a lot of these other countries coming up. Singapore, I feel in particular of late, has been a choice that a lot of Indian students seem to make, and that is largely because it's close to India, it's economical, Indian community feels very comfortable there. Let's pick up each of these countries one by one and see, how they fare up. And when I tend to think of countries where students should apply to, I think these four factors really come right at the top: the quality of education, the global acceptability, that is how recognized is your degree going to be after you graduate from a particular country. The third important factor is that, what are your career options going to be after you graduate. A lot of times students would students go to a particular country largely because of post-career opportunities after they graduate. So I think career opportunities in a particular country is quite an important factor to consider while applying abroad. And I think the last important thing which students have to bear in mind while applying abroad is the cost of education. How much is your education going to cost you versus what is the return of investment that you're going to get on your investment. Let's pick up country by country. I'm going to start with US first. US, of course, is a great destination for Indian students. I do believe most Indian students, and probably the largest percentage, still applies to the US. And the reason for that is, firstly, because it has tremendous choice. So you have close to 1,000 colleges offering an MBA program. You have more than 500 universities in each postgraduate program that you want to apply in, whether it's a master's in computer science, a master's in electrical, chemical, mechanical. So, there is just tremendous choice available. Second is flexibility, and by flexibility, I really mean that you have a choice to do courses which could be very different from what your line of specialization has been till that time. For example, you could have been an undergrad in mechanical engineering and you can go and do a computer science. You can move from economics to English, or you can shift fields. You can decide to major into a particular subject. So there is tremendous flexibility in the way you want to tailor your education. So that's a big positive about US. Of course, US universities are right at the top in terms of recognition and focus. Most of the top 20, 30 programs in any particular stream are based in US universities, so it's right at the top in terms of recognition and focus. There's cutting edge research happening, so US universities are right at the top in terms of technology. You pick up any field and you find that most of the top faculty or top students are located in US universities. And lastly, another factor going in favor of US is that there is tremendous support for international students. So, you know, US universities are still giving liberal scholarships to international students. And that doesn't happen too much, by the way, in other countries. I mean, there are not too many Indian universities, for example, which give scholarships to Indian students, forget international students. And here you have universities in US really willing to support international students. So there's a lot of support for international students in terms of housing, in terms of scholarship, in terms of research opportunities, then and ultimately in terms of career opportunities. So US does remain a great choice. Canada lately has been coming up as a great choice as well, and the reasons for Canada are somewhat similar to US, I would say, in terms of flexibility. Canada doesn't have as many universities as US have, so clearly choice is a little limited. But in terms of flexibility, it's right there, so you still have the option to choose different subjects, major in different subjects, specialize in different areas. Canadian universities, whereas they are not as top ranked as US ones, but in different fields, you will find universities which are recognized all over the world and which have global focus. I think one positive going in Canada's favor is the extremely friendly PR policies that they have. So Canada is very, very welcome to immigrants from all over the world, and they have policies which encourage people to settle down, live there, and work. So Canada, perhaps today, in today's environment, amongst all Western countries, I would rank Canada as one country which is extremely welcome to immigrants to settle down. So they have very, very favorable PR policies. Support for international students again is fairly high. Canada is a fairly relaxed country, very, very welcome to international students. So that's a big positive. I would like to, although we don't have a separate slide on it, but I would like to talk a little bit about Singapore. And I think lately Singapore is coming up as a great destination. It's very economical, very close to India. Singapore again is very, very welcome to Indian applicants. You can just, anybody and everybody who has a job in Singapore will get a work permit. Jobs are fairly liberal, so you get a degree, there is a great likelihood you can get a job. Singapore is very close to India. It's just about a 3 to 4 hour flight from various parts of India. It's very friendly. A lot of the Singapore population is already Indian, so that's a tremendous advantage. One of the limitations of Singapore tends to be that they have very few universities. So there are just 3 big universities in Singapore. So that tends to be a bit of a limitation. Now, looking at career options, once you've decided where to go to, I've not spent too much time talking about Australia. Lately, Australia has been in the news for all the wrong reasons, especially related to discrimination. I think a lot of that talk is kind of over. It happened in the past, so students need not be very worried. UK, of course, continues to be a favorite destination, but I think one of the challenges one finds in the whole part of Europe and largely UK is that career opportunities are fairly tough to get now. So finding a job in Europe or UK is a bit of a challenge. Moving on, I mean, what are some of the postgraduate courses that you could opt for, or what are some of the postgraduate courses you can study? MBA, of course, is it's a big choice with Indian students, and there are a lot of choices across US, across Canada, across Singapore, across Australia, UK, pretty much all countries. Then you could pretty much do an MS or an MA or Masters of Fine Arts, or MIS, which is Management Information Systems. So you could do an MS is a Masters of Science degree, and it could be really in any field that you want to do. So you could do it in physics, in mathematics, you could do it in economics, you could do it in engineering, electrical, mechanical, computer science. Pretty much whatever is your area of choice, you can do an MS. You can do an MA in history, in sociology, in pretty much again any subject that you want to do. You could do it in fine arts. I think another popular degree that is coming up is MIS, which is Management Information Systems. And this is popular because it really combines two different fields. It combines information systems with management. And if you really pick any large company or corporation anywhere in the world today, uh, both information sciences and management play an important role in making organizations work. And the good part about MIS is that you really can do an MIS degree irrespective of of your undergraduate degree. So you could be a maths graduate, or a English graduate, or a sociology graduate, or an engineering graduate, and anybody can do MIS. So you really need not be a computer science graduate to be able to do MIS. And of course, then you can do PhD in any particular, or in your particular area of specialization. So there are a whole lot of options in post your graduation. I've just kind of divided them into larger buckets, but you can pretty much choose to do your graduation in the field that you want to. A lot of engineering graduates tend to go for one of the options listed on this slide. It could be computer science, computer engineering, electrical, mechanical, telecommunication, biomedical, biotechnology, civil, petroleum engineering, operations research. Petroleum engineering particularly is popular now, so is operations research. Along with civil engineering, there's another great field which is construction management. A lot of large construction projects happening in India now, so construction project management is a fairly popular field. And in this slide, I have listed some interesting programs for good engineering graduates. So, during my last 15 years in this field, I've met a lot of graduates who really come and ask you that what is a different field I can do, or they are sometimes wanting to change their field. So you could be a computer science guy, but you're good with numbers, and you don't want to do computer science for the rest of your life. So there are some interesting programs. Computational finance, for example, offered by Carnegie Mellon and Purdue. Really, it's more quantitative based, so you need a background in mathematics or some maths courses, but largely combines finance and computer science. Great course. Financial engineering is another interesting course offered by the University of California at Berkeley, offered by Columbia, offered by Nanyang in Singapore. So again, a great course. MS in engineering management. So you could again have done your engineering in any branch. It really doesn't matter. And you can opt for engineering management. Duke has an extremely interesting program in engineering management. It's a very, very popular program. So does Columbia and Cornell. I mean, these are extremely interesting programs. There's a program in MIS. MIS, as I already talked of, is a fairly popular program increasingly. Carnegie Mellon, Michigan, Ann Arbor, and Texas A&M. I think these are three universities which offer very interesting programs. And if you are not opting for engineering studies, as I mentioned, one option is to really go for a master's in your particular field. But if you want to go for business related studies, you can really do an MBA, you could do a master's in economics, or you could just specialize and do a master's in finance or international business, marketing, accounting. I mean, pretty much any field of management that you want to specialize in. The next slide really talks about what what should some students do if they don't have work experience, because there tends to be a bit of this notion that students who are applying abroad need work experience for their MBA. And I would say that that is a qualified statement. Only if you are applying to some of the top programs, you do need work experience, but there are a lot of programs across US, across UK, especially these two countries, where there are programs where you can get in without work experience. Lately, what we've also seen is that there has been a trend even amongst the top US colleges where they have started taking students without work experience. So there are some interesting programs there. We have Harvard, which offers a 2+2 MBA program. You can apply to this program while you are in college, and you are given a deferred admission, which starts 2 years after you graduate. There is the Yale Silver Scholar program, which really takes students right while they are in college. There is a Chicago Booth early career option, which again takes students without work ex. Wharton has an early career option. Carnegie Mellon Tepper has an early career option. Stanford has a deferred admissions MBA. ISB has. IESC has. ISB's program is called the Young Leaders Program. Again, you apply while you are in college. You are given a deferred admission which starts 2 years after you graduate. Kelly, the University of Indiana, the Kelly School of Business, I mean, they offer an accelerated MBA. SMU, which has the Cox School of Business, they have an MBA direct option. University of California at San Diego, they have MBA direct, which takes students right out of college. Bentley University has Sunny Buffalo. So all these are programs which take you right after college. Let me spend some time on the last part of the presentation, which is really around how do you fund your education, right? I think this is an important question, especially in the context of most students who might not have the funds to really spare for their education, and they wonder whether education abroad is something they can take on. Now, things have changed dramatically in the last 15 years, and I feel today almost every Indian student can aspire to study abroad. And the reason for that is that even if you feel you are a little tight on funding, there are options like working on campus. So you could really work on campus. You can work about 20 hours a week, and salaries can range from $10 to $15 an hour. So you could make about $500, $800 a month, which can take care of your living expenses. A lot of scholarships available. I already mentioned that US is fairly liberal in scholarships. So universities offer up to 100% tuition waiver. Some offer 50% tuition waiver. A lot of the aid also comes in the form of research assistantships. These assistantships can be available after the first year or the first semester. What this really means is that you are assigned to do research work with a professor, and in lieu of the research work that you are doing, you are given a stipend, and that stipend often is enough to take care of your tuition. For MBA, some of the top US colleges offer up to 100% loans at 6 to 7% rate of interest. So your offer of admission to a top US university will entitle you to a loan from a US bank without a cosigner or a collateral. So that is a fairly attractive option. And I think lastly, the Indian banking sector is also gone a massive transformation in the last 15 years. Most of our banks are fairly liberal on education loans. There are loans up to 60 lakhs, although most public sector banks go up to about 25. But there are specialized companies, Credila being one of them, which really offer loans up to large amounts, and it can take care of your entire overseas education. Now, some of these loans come with conditions, and with guarantees or collaterals, but for those specific details, you can always talk to the particular bank or to the particular company that you're interested in taking a loan from. I also feel that it's important to consider placements while you are applying abroad. So a lot of times I've seen that students would have spent a lot of money in their education abroad, but sometimes, and most of the times actually, a good job after the education is able to really take care of the money they've spent on their education. Uh, you know, Average salaries in US immediately upon graduation can be in the range of $70,000-$80,000. Uh, After MBA, we've seen salaries of even $130,000, $140,000, $150,000. So I mean, with 4 to 5 years of work and decent amount of savings, you can cover the amount of money that you've spent in your education. And placements are pretty much across in the academic world. They could be in R&D, they could be in the corporate world. I mean, you could decide to be an entrepreneur. So opportunities are pretty much there all over. Uh, Jamboree as a company has specialized in firstly training students. Most of you would know that to apply to US for your MBA, you need to write the GMAT, which is an exam which is scored out of 800. The higher you score, the better university you get into. For getting into master's programs in US, you need to write an exam called the GRE. This is scored out of 340. Again, the higher you score, the better university you get in. For undergrad, you take what is called the SAT. And together with these exams, you have to take test of English, which could be TOEFL or IELTS, depending on which country you want to apply to. So we've had a fair bit of success in placing students abroad. Students have been to UPenn, that's University of Pennsylvania, Harvard, Carnegie Mellon, Michigan and Ann Arbor, Stanford, so pretty much all top universities across the world. We are at jamboreeindia.com. Jamboree also boasts itself of having one of the best CVs in the industry. Our average on the GMAT is about a 680. Our average on the old GRE is about 1250, and our average on the SAT is about 1850. I think these are some of my broad thoughts on education abroad. The other thing I would like to say is that whenever you want to apply abroad, it is always advisable to start early. Give yourself a good 1 year. So if you want to go and study next year, which is next August, it just makes sense to start planning your education abroad right now, right? So, because the process would involve you writing some exams, it would involve you to choose which colleges you want to apply to, and then it would mean for you to select the right colleges and send in your application. So it can be fairly, sometimes it can be a kind of a long process, so it's always advisable to start early. Although if you really rush it, you can even do the process in 3 to 4 months, but it's always better to start early. I think with these kind of broad suggestions, I would end my presentation here and really ask all the participants, we are now open to questions, so please feel free to ask questions. Thank you. The first question I have on the screen is that, if you're considering to go to Europe for an MBA, and somebody wants to know how do you see the job scenario and how is the placement from college? Now, I think that's a fairly valid question, and I think I did mention during the course of my talk that uh, so my advice is going to be that if you go to Europe, then you should be going to a top college. So if you from a top college, then placements are going to be fairly secure. But in a lot of colleges, placements could be a challenge. So placements kind of do worry me in Europe right now. My advice is going to be that head to a top college. Next question. Well, the next question I have is, what about foreign education after BDS? Well, I think that's a lot of students opt to do that after doing a bachelor's in your dental studies. You can do a master's. You can decide to specialize in any particular dental field that you want to. You can also shift and go to do a master's in public health, or you can do a master's in health administration. So I think there are just a lot of opportunities available after BDS, a lot of exciting opportunities, and one can consider those. However, if you really want to practice being a medical doctor, especially in the US, for example, you have to write another exam which is called the US MLE. So one has to be conscious of that. Other than that, I think there are a lot of exciting opportunities if one wants to study BDS. Next question. Well, the next question I have is, what is the fees for MBA in US? Now, this is a fairly broad question, so the fees in US can really, the tuition fee uh, can vary from $15,000 a year and go up to $50,000 to $60,000 a year. So it's a very, very big range depending on which college you go to. A lot of the MBA programs are going to be in the range of $20,000 to $40,000. However, some are as expensive as 60,000, some are as economical as 15,000. So there is really a big range of fees, and the range of fees is really not dependent upon the ranking of the college. So they are largely dependent if it's a state college or if it is a private university. So I would say that if you are not going to a top college, then you have to be extremely selective about the fee. And my suggestion is going to be that if you're not going to a top 30, 40, 80 ranked college, then it is just better to pick colleges which have lower fee. And in US you will find a lot of that range. Next question. How is the Virginia Tech MBA? I think that is a great MBA school. It ranks in the top 50. It's a good program located very close to Washington DC on the East Coast. Fairly good job opportunities. So I would say it's a good choice. Not very expensive. Whereas I don't know the exact fee, but I think a Virginia Tech would be around $35,000 in fee. It's a good MBA program and one to be considered. Next question. Please discuss the course structure for MS, how to select what to major in, some criterias. Well, typically, I mean, if I were to take the US MS programs are typically spread over 2 years. However, a lot of students will graduate in a year and a half. And as I mentioned, you could do your MS in electrical, computer, mechanical, pretty much what you want to do. And when you are applying from here, you don't have to be very worried about what you want to major in. Normally, whenever you apply to a master's program in that particular department, so it could be electrical, mechanical, computer science. Once you get there, you can decide to major in whatever you want to do. Now, for example, in electrical, if you're confused whether you want to do communication or whether you want to do embedded systems, I don't think these are choices you have to make now. These are choices you can even make when you go there. So don't worry too much about it. My suggestion is going to be that go with your interest. And if you're really confused and you feel you don't want to do engineering, I mean, I already suggested there are some interesting options. MIS, for example, is a great option. If you want to move to a more finance field, you can do financial engineering or computational finance. So I think go with your interest. If you really not decided what you're interested in, you could just go to the field that you graduated in, and you can really decide at that once you reach there what do you want to do. Next. What is the difference between a 1 year and a 2 year MS course? Well, the 1 year MS courses tend to be more intense. So often, and the 2 year courses are often more relaxed. And I already mentioned that a lot of people go for a 2 year course but end up finishing their course even in an year and a half, because your course coverage is based on credits and really not on number of semesters. The advantage I think which a 2 year course has is that, one, it gives you an opportunity for an internship. So after 1 year, you'll get an opportunity for an internship. And that kind of helps you because that internship can sometimes get you a job. A 1 year course will not give you, the opportunity of an internship. However, the advantage of a 1 year course is that, you are done in 1 year. You can get into the job market fairly quickly. In terms of actual number of courses you do and in terms of the rigorousness of the education, uh, you just might end up covering the same amount in 1 year that you do in 2 years. So I think both have their pros and cons, and it's really a student's choice what they want to do. Most of the UK MS courses tend to be 1 year. Most of the UK ones tend to be 1 year. More of the US ones tend to be 2 years. Next. I'm in my 11th grade right now. What do you advise will be the best time to start preparing for SATs? Well, I would say that you are in 11th, so this is the right time to prepare for your SATs. And your application process, of course, will only start when you go into 12th class. So applications open up in October, November. So you are in 11th now. So for you, this means your application process will start only in October, November next year. So that is a fair bit of time. So my advice to you is that you can get done with your SAT in class 11. SAT typically needs 4 to 6 months of preparation. So you can finish your SAT right now, and then really you can concentrate on your application process and other things later on. I hope I've answered your question. Please give more detail on how loans are available. Do the banks give whole money at once? I mean, see, once you get your admission and once you are applying for your visa, you can go to banks and get your loan sanctioned. Now, there is a difference between sanction of loan and disbursement of loan. Sanction of loan could be that, let's say you approach a bank and they've sanctioned you a loan of 25 lakhs. But that 25 lakhs you don't need at one time. You would need that 25 lakhs over the period of 1, 2, 3 years, depending upon how long your education is. So your disbursement will happen proportionately to your progress of studies. So every semester when you have to pay your fee, you will keep disbursing some amount of your loan, and your limit is, let's say if you have a sanction of 20 lakhs, then your upper limit is 20. But the disbursement is going to happen during the course of your study, which is advisable to you also, because your interest is only payable on the money you have taken, not on the money that has been sanctioned. So for you also it's an advantage as a student. I took GRE in 2012 after graduating BTech in IT, and I have been able to get 306. I want to focus on MBA in 2014. Well, one thing you have to be conscious of is that increasingly now there are MBA colleges in the US which accept GRE, but most programs still tend to accept GMAT only if MBA is something you want to do. So you might want to consider whether you want to write the GMAT if it is MBA you want to do. However, 306 is a decent score. It could have been better. But you could also consider doing an MIS, or you could also consider doing other courses like computational finance or financial engineering. These are also options you could have, and these are interesting options. My advice to you is that if it is MBA that you want to do, then you need to start doing your homework about US colleges to see which ones will take you with GRE, and there are quite a few. But all colleges don't accept GRE, so just be careful about that. And I think right now is the right time to start doing all that research. We are still in July, so do your homework and research in the next 2, 3, 4 months, and sometime in November, December, you should be sending your applications. Next. Okay, so I think I didn't see the second part of my question. If I go for GMAT, do I have sufficient time to apply? Yes, I think you have sufficient time. We are still in July. Even if you write your GMAT by December, which is a good 5 months away, even if you write it by January, I think you still have a lot of time. So I don't think you have to worry. So you can just, if you want to write the GMAT, you can just go right ahead and write your GMAT. But as I mentioned, there are some colleges which even take you with GRE, so you can do your research and find that out. Next. How is the placement in US after completing MBA? I think that's a good question. I think the placements in US are still fairly good. Now, when I say that, you need to be mindful that it's not that you finish your MBA and there's going to be a job waiting for you. So it might take you 2, 3, 5 months to find a job, but my experience has been that most people are able to find a job in the US if they are serious to find a job. So I think US continues to be an attractive destination. I also feel that if you have an IT background, then US has, IT is one sector which is still booming in the US, and there is a shortage of manpower in IT. So if you can do an MIS which combines IT and MBA, or if you have a pure IT master's degree, I mean there are just plentiful of jobs. I think IT is one area which continues to have shortage in US, so there are a lot of jobs available. MBA also has a fair bit of opportunities, especially related to finance, corporate finance, or even investment banking is a bit down, but other segments of the US economy are fairly stable now. There has been some amount of job creation, so I think overall it's a fairly decent environment. After 4 years of IT ERP work-ex, which is good MBA or MIS? Well, I think this is a bit of a tough question. I think based on your past, and I think a little bit you would have to understand from what your interest is. If your interest is to transition to more managerial level positions and leave a lot of your IT work behind, then maybe MBA is good for you. And since you have your work ex in ERP, which anyway has some elements of understanding organizations and how they work, I think MBA could be a good move for you. I am assuming that with an IT ERP work ex, you already understand a large part of, or at least some elements of what is taught in MIS. I would be assuming that. I think with the experience in ERP, maybe a MBA will provide a more contrast to your work ex, and can open up much better job opportunities for you. I think that's a strong sense I get. I hope there is no right answer to your question, but I hope I've tried to answer it to the best of my understanding. Apart from your test scores, what other things could help you secure admission in a good US college? Well, other than your test scores, what matters? I think the two things that matter the most on your application. One is the quality of your essays. Because assuming two people have similar score, then the person who will get a preference is the person who has a better quality application. Now the application's quality can be gauged by the quality of essays, by the quality of the letters of recommendation, and the quality of the your resume. So I think these things will help determine the quality of your application. Now, in the case of colleges which demand work experience, then the quality of your work ex could also play a part. And by quality of work ex, I mean is, you know, how have you done compared to your peers? So let's say two people started a job at the same time. After 2-3 years, what has been your career progression? What is the kind of leadership opportunities you got? Uh, what is the kind of initiative you've taken in your job? What have been your accomplishments? So this all will determine the quality of work ex. The quality of essays is largely about giving your personal life story. How deeply have you thought about your essays? How are you able to project them efficiently? I think all these factors uh, help a lot in determining the quality of your application, and that often is a big factor in your admission process. And of course, after your application process, what also matters is the interview. So typically, uh, in most colleges, when you apply, there is a written application where you submit your test scores and other things about your work experience, essays, everything. And after that, once you are shortlisted, then you go to the interview stage, and then the interview also plays a fairly big part. Of course, there are some colleges where interview is mandatory and it's not really the next step. Uh, so I think these are some of the things: work ex, essays, recommendations, extracurriculars, interview. I think these are some areas which play a big part. Next. Some fields in MS related to CAD or computer aided design to major in. I am interested in combination of computers and mechanical. Well, uh, I think if it is computers and mechanical that you're looking at, you already kind of specified. I think CAD CAM are areas. I mean, robotics is pretty much related to this. I think operations research is also fairly related. I think these could be some areas which you could look at. I mean, that's what I can say at this stage. Uh, some elements of automation, industrial design, I think they have now a fair bit of interplay between mechanical engineering and computer. So I think these are some areas which you can look at. My percentage is 50%, so will I get admission in US college? No. So I don't know which course you are asking for, but there are a lot of students even with lesser percentage, 46, 48, 49, uh, who have uh, gone to the US earlier. If you could specify your field of study, that will help me better. But I mean, if you are going for your MBA, for example, it's not going to matter too much. It will matter a bit. 50 is not very high, but what will matter more is your GMAT score, or what will matter more is your GRE score. I think these start to play a larger part. If you're applying for a master's program, percentages play a more important part. I mean, if you're applying for a master's in a particular field, then your percentage plays a more important part. But for an MBA, it definitely plays a. But I would strongly urge you to not be discouraged by your 50% and to apply. Uh, you know, you should be applying. Yeah. Will a loan of 25 lakhs be enough to cover overseas? I mean, it really depends on which course you're going for, what is the tuition. But as I mentioned, I mean, there are companies which even give you loans of more than 25. I think Credila is one company which gives you higher loans. So there are now companies which give you even an option to take loans of larger than 25 lakhs. But I think for a lot of the MS programs, 25 lakhs will suffice. I mean, just to answer your question. Maybe for some MBA programs, it might not be enough, but I think it can serve. I think we have 5 more minutes to go, so maybe last few questions. Yeah. I'm in B Industrial from Mumbai University. Well, I don't think it's any problem shifting from industrial to mechanical. It's a fairly complementary field. If you were to apply to masters in mechanical, there is a high probability you should be taken in. I don't feel uh, that's a big challenge. There's the next question I have from Prashant, which says that what is an ideal time duration to prepare for GMAT? Uh, Again, I mean, it can depend from person to person. Uh, Ideally, I think about 3 to 4 months is an ideal time. 3 months is just about right, 3 to 4 months. Uh, 2 months can be a little tight. You mentioned that can I prepare for GMAT in 2 months? Uh, I have known students who've done it even in 6 weeks or 1 month. So 2 months can do. It'll be a little tight, but just put in your best effort. How do you suggest will be the best way to prepare for the SATs? Karthik is asking this question. Well, I think my advice to most people is that uh, good coaching programs on GMAT, GRE, SAT definitely help out. I mean, there is absolutely no question about it. Because a good coaching program will have specialized teaching material and faculty to guide you. So the best option, if you can find a good coaching program close by, that is invariably the best option. If you can't, then you can prepare on your own, do the research on the internet, find out what are the right books, buy those books and study on your own, take a lot of mock tests, practice tests, make a plan, and it will typically take you 3 to 4 months to prepare for the SATs or to prepare for GMAT or GRE. So and that can be done on your own also. However, coaching is, I always find, is a good option. I mean, you could go to jamboreeindia.com, you could check the list of our coaching centers, and if you think there is any one of our coaching centers is near to your home, I would highly recommend that. How much work experience is required while applying to USB schools? That's a question by Gaurang. I think I missed that. Well, there is no standard. As I had mentioned in my talk now, a lot of the schools are coming up which are even okay without work ex. So a lot of schools are even okay without work experience now. Most schools tend to ask around 3 4 years experience, minimum of two, going up to 5 6. I think 2 to 6 years is quite a good range. About 3 4 years is ideal. However, I mean, there are a lot of choices now where you can apply even without business school, without work ex. How is Guzeta Business School? That is the business school of Emory University. That's a great school. It's a top 20 school. If you have an admit offer from there, you should not just think about it. You should just apply. I mean, you should just go. Guzeta is a great school. It is located in Atlanta. Atlanta uh, is a good hub I mean, it's a big industrial town. A lot of placement opportunities. How is Simon Rochester School? A great school again. I mean, Simon is a great school. Simon, is again a top 20-25 school located about 2 hours north of New York. Very good school in finance. So if it is finance or consulting that you want to do, then you should be heading to Simon. That is my strong advice. Great school to go to. I think we have 1 more minute to go. So this is the last question that I'm going to answer. What would be my career prospects if I do MS in operations research? How is the current market scenario for the same? I think it will be fairly good because it's a technical field, operations research. It's fairly quantitative, especially if you do it from a good college. My sense is that it is going to benefit you quite a bit, and I think there should be good job prospects. However, MIS is also something you can look at while you're looking at OR. OR, I think, would be a good idea. I think the time is really up, and I've tried to answer most of the questions that came my way. Thank you all for listening to me patiently and for participating in the seminar, and best of luck for your overseas education plans. Thank you very much.